Well, welcome back, everyone. Today's lesson will be dealing with innovation. Now, we're going to be in a different textbook, and the textbook that I'm going to be using, I've put on the slide so that if you want to purchase it, you can. To save you money, I'm not going to require it, but I do expect you to keep up with the PowerPoints, and we'll probably deal with innovation specifically every Thursday, so that we can keep up and not get behind on anything. But do keep up with org development and change, because that's an important part of the course as well. But on Thursdays, we'll more than likely, like I said, just focus on innovation. Now, today, we're going to take a look at what creativity is, what innovation is, and some of the myths that are out there that involve creativity. So let's go ahead and begin and examine what it means to be a creative person. Okay, everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to shift gears to another book that talks about innovation and creativity. Now, I don't require you to have this book, but I am going to be using it, and the PowerPoints that you see in regards to innovation and creativity will come primarily from this textbook, and it is Managing Change, Creativity, and Innovation, 3rd edition by Patrick Dawson and Konstantin Andriopoulos. So again, I don't require it, but if you want to have the textbook to follow along with the PowerPoints, then please feel free to do so. But probably on Thursdays, I'm going to be looking at innovation more than change and development. This is just going to prevent you from having to buy 2 textbooks, which can be quite expensive. So the organizational development you need to stay on top of and continue to read and keep up with the PowerPoints for that. But when you are on Thursdays, you need to take a look at the PowerPoints and my lectures for innovation. Now, what is creativity? When we talk about creativity, we look at the process through which new and useful ideas are generated. Now, people who are the creators draw on resources, which could be knowledge. You may want to improve upon an item or an idea. You can use technology, and we're seeing technology being a catalyst for creativity, and it's growing. But you do it to engage in everyday problem solving. You can find alternative routes in response to traffic congestion information, and that's how maybe the warnings on GPS came about. But that would be an example of problem solving. You have probably engaged in creativity in solving some type of problem in your personal life. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. So you can think about maybe times when you've had a problem, you've needed to address that problem, and it's required you to think of maybe creating something or doing something differently or new to be able to solve that problem. So that's where we're looking at when it comes to, or what we're looking at when we come to creativity. Now, creativity is a unique human quality. There's no other animal out there that creates. It's originally seen as a eureka-type moment, and that comes from artists, and that's really not the case. You can develop over time new ideas and creative creations and so forth, but now, and as you see, it's recognized as something that can be developed and nurtured in the workplace. It stimulates thinking about old problems in new ways, challenges convention. It opens up different viewpoints, enable new patterns and links to emerge, creates opportunities for business initiatives. So just coming straight from the text and the PowerPoint, you see that a lot of what we create can be nurtured in the workplace. How much creativity goes on in the workplace? How many shortcuts have you created in your job? or how many gadgets have you created to help improve or make your job easier? So this is all a part of creativity. You don't have to be some inventor in a lab creating things, inventing things. It can come just from everyday life and trying to figure out ways to make life a little bit easier for you. Now, there are myths that go along with creativity and its definition. The first is that the smarter you are, the more creative you are. Now, there are limits to this. Once an individual has enough intelligence to do their job, there's little or no correlation between the two. In other words, what we're talking about here, and you can read the rest of the PowerPoint, but once you have the basics of that job, you understand that job, everybody else, and including yourself, you're on an equal playing field. You have just as much opportunity and ability to create things and innovate things just as someone who may have a higher IQ. You're just thinking about things and you may think about it in different ways. So it's not necessarily something that comes from a genius. Now, the creator of Post-it notes, for instance, he was a fairly smart guy. He was an engineer, but he didn't sit around and all of a sudden, boom, one day, let's create a Post-it note. He wanted to leave a message for his supervisor, and when he got to the office, the supervisor was gone. So he took a piece of paper and a piece of tape and wrote a note and just taped the note to the wall or to the door. And voila, there's Post-it notes. He saw it and he said, I wonder if there would be a market for this. And boy, is there a market for it. But there was no eureka moment as far as him just sitting around and it coming to him. He saw that there was a need, and once he addressed that need, he saw the solution to that need might be something that other people could use. And then you see how Post-it notes have evolved. Creativity exists outside of time and circumstance. Some people believe that creativity is something magical or extraterrestrial. I'm not sure about all of that, but again, people do believe that special people are the only ones who can create, and that's not necessarily the truth. Creativity is a process that is an ongoing contextual dynamic. That means it's processed or processual in nature. It's linked to domains of knowledge that are similarly changing and in the process of becoming. So for me, let's say teaching a class, I've found ways to make this job simpler. I've learned to be able to glean from PowerPoint, to be able to present material for you. I've learned to use technology to be able to communicate these principles to you. So just in my job, over the years, I've been able to find shortcuts and ways of being able to decrease the amount of time and effort it takes to present a class to students. And you probably have done the same thing with your job. Creative people are risk takers or high rollers. Now, there is a certain amount of risk that you take. Much of it is calculated risk, which means that you're not just jumping out blindly. You do have some research under your belt. You have looked into it, but sometimes it's going to take you stepping out a little bit in faith to make sure that whatever it is you're creating will get out there. And you run the risk of it not being popular. There are all types of risk takers whose ideas and inventions and creative products have not made it. But think about all those who have. And really, when it comes to the workplace, anything that you can come up with to make your job easier is a success. Whether or not you can sell it in a marketplace is irrelevant, but we're always looking for ways of doing our job easier, and you creating those ways already makes you successful. The creative act is essentially effortless. It's complex. There's a process that begins with illumination, and most innovations occur after many trials, dead ends, and a lot of personal effort. So that's a falsehood. It's not effortless. You do have to put in a lot of effort. Edison, if you remember the old saying, and I'm sure you probably heard of it, there was no telling how many hundreds of attempts, maybe even 1,000 attempts, that Edison made to make the light bulb. He failed every one of them. But that one idea or that one attempt that was successful made sure that we had light today. So, and he said, it's not that I failed all these times, I just found ways of not doing it right. So that's a pretty good way of looking at efforts that have not produced fruit. Creativity derives only from eccentric personalities. And again, these are special people, Einsteins and things like that people have in their mind. It has nothing to do with the person, the personality, the behaviors that are specific to any type of person. It does arise from behaviors that take place in the workplace, and that's what we're looking at today. But even at home, you create things that help make your life easier. You have interest in things and you create from it. So there's all types of opportunities to be creative. Creativity exists in the arts, and it's a stereotype, but business, science, education, all of these disciplines incorporate creativity. So there's plenty of room out there for creative people and for creative innovations. So, and that's what we want to try to foster and learn more about in this course. Coming up with new ideas is the most difficult part of creativity. There are all types of techniques that can help you generate new ideas. And at the end of this, I believe there's some websites that can help you in being able to create things. But here we see that the difficult part of creativity is not simply to arrive at ideas that are new, but to identify those that have value and are realizable, which means they have some type of practical usage, and they're not so far-fetched or out of range that you can't reach them. So you want to try to come to the creative table with ideas that are have practical value to it. You can use it, but they are within your realm of expertise and ability to be able to bring it to fruition. Creativity output is always good. Novel ideas also can be applied to evil and destructive ends, just as well as they can be applied to good. It's just like a gun. A gun is neither good nor evil. It's how you use it that will determine the outcome and how it's viewed. So ideas can be used the same way. It can be used to hurt or to build up. That's the choices that we make, and there's a lot of good ideas that have been used for bad purposes. So creation or creating things is not necessarily always going to turn out for the good of mankind. Now here's a video and a couple of videos here on YouTube and the Accidental Creative, so I'll let you guys take a look at that, and we'll move on from there to next week. So until then, have a good weekend, and we'll see you later. Well, today we took a look at creativity, the definition of it, and we found that creativity is not something that comes about by special people at special times. Creativity involves those everyday people who are just trying to make life easier every day. And then we took a look at some of the myths, and hopefully that you know now that it's not special people or special circumstances that involves creativity. You'll be more sensitive to that. Well, next week we'll be in Chapter 2 of Org Development and Change, so make sure you keep up with your reading. And until then, have a good weekend, and God bless you.